I just really started to doubt myself. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this, the travel, everything that's involved with it. And, have I maybe stepped into something over my head? And he just sat with me on the phone and talked me through it. And he just said to me, you're going to make your mistakes. Everybody does. Nobody's ever had a perfect game. And you have to have grace with yourself and be forgiving of yourself when you make a mistake. Because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist in some ways. And and being a Hextall, I'm super competitive and I want to be the best at everything I do. But he really, I cannot say enough about, and he checks in with me, and he's so funny because he said, because a lot of my games are on ESPN Plus, which is a streaming service. And he goes, well, I don't know about this streaming, kid, but I'll figure it out here in Michigan so that I can watch some of your games. So I cannot say enough about, how wonderful he's been. And quite frankly, so many of my male colleagues, when I go onto rinks, make a point of coming over to talk to me. John Forsland in Seattle and I sat down and had a great dinner. And he said, I know you're taking bullets right now, Leah, but you're making an impact and you got to just keep going. And just having their support means a great deal to me.
It really does. And we really appreciate, Scott and I both appreciate you jumping on board. Sorry for the little glitch to get things started. We would love to spend more time with you, but we have a few more guests to get to. Would you come back and join us again and tell us about these travels and how things are going in Leah Hextall's career soon?
Sure will, gentlemen. Thank you so much for having me. This is a real treat. And Travis, so nice to see you. And Scott, so nice to see you. And, we go way back a long, long time now, sadly. It's
it's not that far back for me. I had a lot of years in there. It's like yesterday for me.
Well, there you go.
But I was going to say, before you go,
if
you get a chance, talk to a professional defensive back.
Okay.
Because defensive backs are the guys who give up touchdowns over them, and they immediately forget that it ever happened. Defensive backs are successful because they forget that. Talk to a goalie, because a good goalie immediately forgets that goalie lets in. Ron will be able to tell you all about that.
All right.
The reality is, you're going to make mistakes. Forget about it.
And talk to guys like me who just, let that roll off your back as we're moving forward, folks. This is radio. This is Game On Hockey. For Leah Hextall, thanks, Leah, for joining us. We'll do this again soon. I appreciate it. Scott, we'll come back after a quick break. I'm not sure we can beat that the rest of the show, but I hope the rest of you hang on because we've got some great guests coming up. You take a break. You're listening to Game On Hockey on the Mighty 790 and 104.7 KFGO.
People from Brandon are pretty tough.
They're pretty tough, is right. And you talk about, you laugh, you have to laugh with the University of North Dakota connections, because Cassie Campbell Pascal is married to Brad Pascal, who is the assistant general manager of the Calgary Flames. He also is a former University of North Dakota defenseman. So everything kind of goes through. You have the Hextall connection, obviously, with Denny and Brett. And by the way, I got to meet Brett's wife. She's an anesthesiologist at a local hospital. I had the joy of having a colonoscopy a couple weeks ago, and the young lady walks in and introduces herself. I'm Dr. Hextall. I'm here to help put you to sleep. So I thanked her very much for that, and it was Brett's wife. So, hey, got a chance to meet her in a professional setting. However, I wasn't dressed very professionally at that point. We all chuckle because those things called colonoscopies are such a joy to go through, but always good to get good outcomes and good results from those as well. But again, back to that UND connection. And the other thing I guess to point out too is how good that network of people is at supporting those who want to achieve and move forward. Doc Emmerich did not have to take the time. The guys at ESPN did not have to, and they do, and they support that. And I think that says a lot for those in the industry.
And the Doc Emmerich story to me is the most interesting story of all of this, simply because this is the big time announcer in the United States. This was, for 20 odd years, the play-by-play hockey man in the United States. And he called her and he called back. I think that says a lot about him. It says a lot about her courage to do that, because a lot of people wouldn't do that. But I think also it says a lot about him that he immediately called her back, and not really knowing her all that well, went to bat for her right away. I think that says a lot about Doc Emmerich and the quality of character that he has.
Obviously, the ability to judge someone's talents and abilities in a very short period of time with the conversation that they had. And of course, then you go back to the five overtime game that she called, the stamina. And I've been in the booth. I did color for UND hockey for a number of years. One overtime would be a lot, but for someone to do play by play for that length of time, the stamina to do so, it is not an easy thing to do, and be entertaining throughout that time frame with an energy level that keeps people enthralled. That's difficult.
Remember, I did baseball for 15 years.
Oh, that's right.
You never know when that's going to end.
And that's a segue here. They're listening to Game On Hockey with Travis Dunn and Scott Taylor on a beautiful Thursday night, typically 6 till 7, but because of UND men's basketball at 6:30 versus Oral Roberts, we will indeed be able to join those guys at 6:30, but that's why the show's from 5:30 to 6:30. Well, you know what? One quick question I want to ask Scott before we bring in Soupy Campbell. There's how many Soupy Campbells are there out in this world? She's chuckling right now. I can see her on YouTube. By the way, we're on YouTube Live. We're on all sorts of platforms. I hope you enjoy picking up the show after, if you didn't get all of it. But again, Leah Hextall was our first guest. The hockey world. As a reporter, you've been in how many dressing rooms over your career? Leon Draisaitl this week had a little bit of a terse conversation. Would be that the right term to call it? Did you ever anger someone with the question you asked, Scott Taylor?
No, I angered a lot of people with what I wrote. I did that. I don't think I ever angered anybody with a question, but I remember going toe to toe and nose to nose with Ty Domi after the Jets mess in the 1990s. Yeah. I never had a problem asking questions. I never had a problem getting answers out of people. I don't know why that was. I never ever had a meltdown like those two guys did this week. But yeah, I had a lot of interesting things happen to me after I wrote. I got assaulted by a defensive back at the Grey Cup one year. For not picking his team to win by 14 points, which they did.
Well, now you would have wanted that so you could win the money, obviously.
I'll tell you what, it's not the easy part after you've written. The easy part is asking questions. Right.
And the easy part too, I guess, to carry that on a little bit more, you talk about, Edmonton right now is in a major struggle to 12-2 in the last 14 games. The Winnipeg Jets, back when you covered them, weren't exactly a powerhouse hockey team, not winning a lot of games. Those dressing rooms versus teams that are on winning streaks, when you're asking the questions, a lot easier to win when they're winning, right?
Yeah, well, my problem wasn't over winning and losing, because when Domi played there, the Jets were a competitive team that were in the playoffs. The problem then was the Players Association and the battle over salary cap and the fight to keep the Jets in Winnipeg. And it was a really ugly time between players and management. And And I took the side of the fan, which wasn't always good for me because management wasn't always on my side, and certainly the players weren't. So it was a difficult period of time for everybody.
Yeah, we'll carry that conversation on one day when we have a little more time to spend on it. But what we're going to do right now, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be able to spend the rest of the time with Soupy Campbell, the goaltender of the Canadian Olympic women's hockey team. I'm excited to be heading to Beijing. We'll hear her story and listen to Game on Hockey with Scott Taylor. I'm Travis Dunn on the Mighty 790 and 104.7 KFGO.
Hi, Kristen.
Hello, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. Yeah, just in our hotel here, kind of isolating, so.
So you're locked away.
From the Nillis Law Firm studio and broadcasting on the Mighty 790 KFGO and 104.7. This is Game on Hockey with Scott Taylor and Travis Dunn. We appreciate you joining us each and every Thursday. We'll get you through the winter together as we plow through the cold spell. It will be spring sooner rather than later, and hockey, well, that'll continue for an awful long time after spring as well. But it is Winter Olympics conversation. And with that, Scott Taylor has arranged a conversation with the goaltender for the women's Canadian Olympic hockey team, Kristen Campbell. Welcome to Game on Hockey.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
We're excited for you because in about 6 days, you get on the plane and head for Beijing. How exciting is it in Calgary? And are you actually already locked away in quarantine in a hotel?
Yeah, I mean, it's really exciting. Our whole group has been together now for almost a week. And yeah, we are locked away right now in a hotel in Calgary, but we're able to practice and work out in small groups. And just kind of keep training and preparing. Obviously, we just want to be as ready as possible when we hit the ice in Beijing. So definitely a lot of energy around our bubble right now.
You grew up in Brandon. Tell us your origin story. How did you start playing? How did you become a goaltender? Because I know parents don't always like to have their kids be goalies because that gear is expensive. Tell us your history.
Yeah, no, for sure. I got into goaltending. My brother was actually a forward, and he always put me in the net when we played street hockey. So we always give him credit for getting me back there. But yeah, no, I kind of grew up playing with him. I started out actually as a forward and a defenseman. So we played on the same line together, and then we played kind of rec hockey just out of our local rink in Forest, Manitoba. And then, yeah, that was kind of how I got started. I actually would have to be the first person that got to the rink to get the old set of pads that was there, because the boys always said they didn't want a girl in net. So I always had to beat them there so that I could get in the net. So yeah, I'll never forget that. But then I ended up switching over to girls a couple of years later because they needed a goalie. But yeah, I'm glad I did. It worked out pretty well for me going through the female ranks for hockey.
I wish there was a hockey DB for women. And Scott, we should probably hook that up because, you know, you do hockey DB, which if you go online, you can search hockey players and they're all men. There's no women on there. So I have no background on exactly where you came up from, where you end up playing. There's no junior hockey for women. Did you come through the high school ranks, or what steps did you take to get to where you are today?
Yeah, so I played like in the Brandon minor hockey growing up until about, I moved away when I was 16 to a prep school in Winnipeg. So I played for the Shasbury Titans, and then we kind of traveled around the US and Canada. And I had goals of going to Division I school on a scholarship. So I actually committed to the University of North Dakota, and I was able to play for under 18 Team Manitoba and under 18 Team Canada, which also helped expose me to obviously this level and D1 schools. But yeah, I went to North Dakota for college, and then our program actually was cut there. So I transferred to the University of Wisconsin, but definitely it was kind of a lot going on. Like I did play rural in Manitoba too, but I decided to move away just to pursue further opportunities and get the chance to skate every day at a prep school where you're just focused on hockey. So
you just glossed over the University of Wisconsin. You were pretty good. I recall you went through a national championship tournament and never allowed a goal. You were All-American, captain of the Badgers. Tell us about your experience at Wisconsin, and tell us about how disappointed it was for you to lose your opportunity at the University of North Dakota.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start off with North Dakota because it was what kickstarted my career, and I got the opportunity to actually redshirt there. And I met a lot of incredible people who helped build my game, and they knew my goals of making it to the Olympics one day and to become a starting goaltender at the Division I level. So I think there I was just kind of, like I would call it, I was groomed there. Like that's like where I was groomed into a starting goaltender. And then obviously it was super disappointing not getting the chance to be that for the University of North Dakota. But when I got to transfer to Wisconsin, it was just an incredible experience. And I was able to have an opportunity where they didn't have a starting goaltender anymore. So I stepped in and was able to fill the job. And I think that obviously there's a lot of credit that goes to all the coaches I had at North Dakota for believing in me and knowing that I could get there one day, but then also the coaches at Wisconsin who gave me opportunities and allowed me to succeed there and to reach my goals of going in Olympics. So just an overall kind of crazy college journey, but I wouldn't trade anything for the world that happened in my 5 years in college.
You talk about the Olympics as your goal, and I think for most women in Canada it is. But you won an NCAA championship. That was a big deal too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, when I started out in college, I had set honestly a lot of outcome goals, and winning a national championship was one of them. And I'd obviously pictured it happening at North Dakota, but to have it happen at Wisconsin was just pretty incredible. It kind of summed up everything I'd gone through in college, and just the girls that I met that year. We had the closest team that I had ever been a part of. And you just knew something was special about it. And obviously at the end, when we were able to do it, we hadn't done it since I think it was 2012. So it had been a long time since they'd won a national championship. So to kind of get that one and to start kind of a new tradition going, they actually won last year too. So it's pretty exciting. They have a very strong program building there. So yeah, it was just crazy to be able to accomplish that college dream.
You're listening to Game on Hockey on the Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM. Scott Taylor, our guest is Kristen Campbell, a former University of North Dakota Fighting Hawk, as well as a Wisconsin Badger national champion. We sure appreciate you joining us. So obviously you're pretty familiar. It seems to be, the path of the United States and Canada to meet in those very important games. It seems to be the case. You're awful familiar with most of the women on that hockey team, I would anticipate.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, either playing them in the NCAA or playing with them. Definitely, everyone. So it just makes the rivalry that much more exciting. And obviously, when we're on the ice, we aren't friends anymore. But off the ice, it's pretty exciting to catch up and see people that you always ran into every day in the college life.
Talked to Jocelyn Larocque, who is from Manitoba this week and a member of your team, Team Canada. She said that the most exciting time for her to play hockey is when Canada plays the United States. I would assume that's the same for you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, growing up, watching those games on TV too, as a young girl, you kind of are whoa, this is intense. And I don't think you fully understand it though until you're actually part of it. Watching from TV is one thing, but then actually being there and being in the room and being out there, just seeing what's happening, it's crazy. And it's gives me chills just thinking about it, that it is the best games that you can possibly play.
Now, when you go to the Olympics, is it difficult for you and your team to play those preliminary games that aren't against the USA? Because as everybody heads into that Olympics, they're all expecting Canada and the USA to play for gold. And yeah, Sweden and Finland and Russia are getting better, but maybe not fast enough. Is it hard for you to get by those games?
I wouldn't say hard. I think that our team this year, honestly, has been really good at focusing on the process. And we had the World Championships in August and we played, we didn't play the US right away. We played Russia first and Switzerland. And I think that those games are still really important and crucial into getting us at our best when we play the US. So I think that we just have to stay with our good habits and we kind of use those games as the process and know that we have to perform well in those games and do the little things right to keep building our game for when it comes down to that gold medal moment.
Now, we had a conversation last week for Game On Magazine, and we talked about the fact that, first of all, your gear is awesome. That Team Canada goaltending, well. It's pretty awesome gear. But you admitted to me you're a gear hoarder, that you like to keep all your stuff. I understand you have all of your equipment from North Dakota and Wisconsin still in your house.
Yeah, I have I have pretty much every set. I have most of my high school ones too, and my first pair of pads. So yeah, I for sure should probably sell some of it one day or give it away. But yeah, I like to keep everything.
No, I think you should give it to my friends at the Hockey Hall of Fame. Craig Campbell at the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto would love to have a chunk of that equipment because you are an Olympian now, and Canada's got a great shot at a gold medal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the goal.
Yep.
Yeah, and you know what I'm going to do? I have to throw this one here before. Golf season is a little ways away, especially on a day when it's 9 or 10 below. But the Golf Center in Grand Forks, obviously, Kristen, you hang around Grand Forks, you may have heard the Golf Center has been in business for over 35 years. Custom club fitting for Ping, PXG, Titleist, as well as TaylorMade, as well as custom putter fitting. They also have SkyTrack, so if you want to do a little practicing in the garage before the snow melts, which probably a few months away, you can get that practice in, so you're ready to hit the links in good form. It might take a while to get new clubs, so please, by all means, get in there early. You have a full line of clothing as well. So the Golf Center in Grand Forks, 3001 South Columbia Road in Grand Forks, of course, at 701-775-0019. Brian Leach and the guys will take very good care of you. You talk about all that gear, if you want to autograph something and send it my way, it'd be kind of nice as well. But, a couple of Olympians live just a few miles north of here in Grand Forks, North Dakota, the Lamoureux twins. Ever spent any time with them?
Yeah, I actually spent a lot of time with them. My redshirt year, I was able to skate with them every day and train with them. So it was pretty amazing experience, and definitely they've got me to where I am today, just watching them and how they prepare and how they execute just life in general, not just hockey.
When you talk about preparing, has it been difficult the last couple of years since you left university and the Canadian Women's Hockey League folded? Has it been tough for you to train and play and get ready to get to this level, or have you had enough workouts with your coaches and with Team Canada to be able to keep your game at a high level?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, one would think that like you wouldn't have had as much as college because of everything that's happened with COVID, but I actually feel like I've had more opportunities to grow my game. Just being out of college, not having that schedule of having games every weekend, like I was able to pretty much skate like this whole past year, like 4 or 5 times a week with our Team Canada goalie coach since I lived out of Calgary. On top of that, do skills and shooting sessions with Team Canada players. So yeah, I was able to honestly grow my game more than I felt like I could in college, just due to having to have your body ready to play games. And kind of this past year with COVID, like almost 2 years now, like you kind of could run your body down a little more than normal and really like train. So I think that like all of us here are like more prepared than we've ever been because of COVID and the situations that we've had the last couple of years.
Well, we sure appreciate you jumping on board and spending some time with us and painting the picture of the trip to Beijing. And we wish you all the best. We have to, I walk a fine line. I live in the United States, played at University of North Dakota. I have a lot of friends in Manitoba, as Scott, would attest to. But we wish you all the best. And wherever your career goes from here, we hope you're carrying a big medal with you on the way out when you leave Beijing in about, 3, 4, 5 weeks.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'll hopefully bring it back to North Dakota one day.
I don't have any political problems. Go Canada, go. Go get the gold, Kristen. Best of luck.
Yeah, exactly right. Thank you very much for joining us, Kristen. And best safe travels, stay COVID-free, and we'll look forward to watching you on the big screen, probably take on the United States for a gold medal. All the best moving forward.
Thanks so much.
Hey, Scott, I tell you what, the women of the game of hockey, you know what? It's come so very far, as we've talked about ringette being the game that was played before, but what it is today, the great women of the game, Leah Hextall and this young lady, the goaltender for the Canadian Olympic team, what a joy.
Yeah, but I've reached a point now where I don't find it any different. I've been covering women's hockey for a long time, and yeah, it's a different game because of the hitting issues. And I know when I talk to a lot of women players, they're glad hitting's not in. Some would like it in. I think that's all a personal thing. But the game itself is tremendous.
Yeah,
and the reason why it's tremendous is because at any level of hockey, if you have 2 competitive teams on the ice, you have a remarkably dramatic extravaganza. And when Canada plays the United States in women's hockey, there is nothing better in the world. It's as good as this Game 7 in the Stanley Cup final. And when you're playing for that gold medal, it is remarkable hockey. And it seldom ever more than a goal separates those 2 teams. And they play virtually to the death. I mean, it really is tough, hard, from the gut hockey. And I just really enjoy watching it. And of course, Game On Magazine has been pretty heavily behind the women's game since we started. And we will continue to do that because, as you mentioned, nothing better than the women in hockey.
You got that right. You know what? It is normal. And you know what? We've hopefully figured out all of our technical issues moving forward with this with our Game On Magazine show. Game On Hockey.
You can plug it.
You can call it that. You can plug that as well. GameOn.ca. You can definitely read all sorts of hockey conversations that Scott writes about each and every week. Well, Scott, for producer Paul Alliance, we're going to wrap this one up for today. Great guests, and thanks very much for joining us out there, listening to those who call the game, those who write about the game, and those who play the game. For Scott Taylor, I'm Travis Dunn. This is Game On Hockey from the mighty 790 KFGO and 104.7 from the Nilles Law Firm Studios in Fargo, North Dakota. Good night.
Belongs to a creature from outer space.